Hi guys, Brian here. You might notice, well, the Millennium Falcon is behind me. That is because we are riding Millennium Falcon. Smugglers Run is my first time on it, so let's see how it goes. God, it's beautiful. Made it to the indoor queue. It is very cool, very mechanical. One cool thing we noticed about this queue that it's supposed to be, I guess, kind of a mechanic shop. It actually smells a little oily and greasy in here. It looks exactly like a mechanic shop. You can even see there's a droid over there, right there, with treads and a couple of arms. There's a lot in here. To where the holding rooms are, right through that door there. We've got some cool schematics of the Falcon there. Door open, here we go.
Well, I had a bad feeling about that last group, but this, this is the group I've been waiting for, yes! Come in! I have an opportunity for you all that is bad, dangerous. I was going to say profitable. You think I'm so heartless I would send my friends to danger? You insult my honor, and believe me, I have very little honor to insult.
Hondo, one of the engines blew up again.
We'll talk later. I have to do everything around him. Yes. Hello, my friends. I am Hondo Ohnaka, and this is Ohnaka Transport Solutions. Today, I am offering the opportunity of a lifetime. I need flight crews to transport this valuable merchandise across the galaxy. Pilots to navigate, engineers to operate the ship, and gunners to defend the shipments. And that is where you come in. Chewbacca, my fine furry friend! Yes. As we agreed, you let us use the ship. We'll get you the supplies you need. It's a win-win. You help the resistance, and I get all the profits. Wow, the first order will never know we were there. Okay, time to go, so, bye-bye. We better go before he changes his mind. Move along, my friends. Listen carefully and remember, the better you work together, the more you earn. Your lives and my profit depend on it. Now go!
Alright, so we made it to the lounge area. There are about 18 or so people in here. We got our cards. I am an engineer. Definitely gonna have to ride this a couple of times because I will be a pilot of the Millennium Falcon. But this is very neat. I mean, even the floor feels like it gives a little. It's the Millennium Falcon. I mean, right over there was where Luke first learned, about the Force from the droid. The Dejarik table, right back there. A lot happened in a room that looked just like this. Holy cow. This is great.
You're still here, go!
You're up and down.
Okay. Flight engineers, repair test. Hit your flashing buttons. You better be faster when we get into real trouble. Right, pilot? Push the flashing button to take off. Pilot on the left. Move your stick to fly right and left. I was just about to say that. Pilot on the right. Pull back on the stick to fly up. And push forward to fly down. Chewie makes this thing look easy, eh? Weapons are online. Left pilot, hit the boosters. Now let's go get that glass job. Right pilot, make the jump to light speed. Containers of coaxium. This will greatly help the resistance. You have heard the First Order and made Chewie proud. Now after my modest profit, your cut minus what you owe me for damaging the Falcon. Hey, not bad.
This thing has seen better days. Better fix all that before the Wookiee sees it.
And now I am off of the planet of Batu, back in my office here, to give you kind of my after the fact thoughts. Now I've had a few days to think about it and talk to some other people Oh, and sorry about the sound. I know I mentioned it below, but I didn't pull my lavalier microphone when I was filming that, and for some reason, the really loud noises did spike that mic, and I just couldn't fix it very much in post. So I apologize again about some of the sound weirdness, especially during that ride through part. So here is what I like about Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run. One, I very, very much like being in the Millennium Falcon. I think the nostalgia of it definitely plays a pretty big part in my feelings about the ride in general. Anyone who has seen Star Wars, being in the Millennium Falcon is just really cool. And I will say, even if you aren't super familiar with Star Wars or the Falcon, it looks very realistic as a kind of beat up space freighter. All Q is very realistic, as you just saw, very mechanical. Then when you get into the hallways of the Falcon, into that lounge where the holochess, Dejarik table is, everything just feels very real, which I appreciate on a design level, let alone that it is the Millennium Falcon. Also very much like that so many of the buttons and switches are pushable. Over your head, everything, there are just switches and switches and switches that you can just kind of get in and start pressing. When you push the buttons even before the ride starts, it kind of makes a sound as you go, and they all feel very realistic. Everything has a good weight to it, so I very much enjoy that. It also, my experiences on the ride, it seems to work pretty well. It reacts very well to movements. All the movements feel pretty natural. I think that's part of the reason I did not get motion sick on it. It matches very well with the video action. Now, that's not to say it is a perfect ride, as you've probably been hearing from other sources, including my boss, Len Testa, who wasn't super big on the ride. I think a lot of the problem with it is the different roles. I personally liked being the pilot the best. I talked to some other people who really liked being the gunners, and I actually did meet one person who preferred the engineer role. So I think depending on what role you get and how much you enjoy doing that particular role, your experience may differ. It is definitely one of those rides that you will want to ride multiple times and try to get all three of the roles just to see what they're like. But if you can't, if you can only ride it one time and you get a role you don't like, that could greatly impact your experience on the ride. Another thing that could impact your personal enjoyment is the group you're with. It is a ride that is better if you are talking to the other people. So if you're on there with a bunch of friends, or just with generally fun people. The last time I rode, the time I got to be the pilot, was a group where the other 4 people all knew each other. There was only 5 of us, so we only had 1 engineer in that ride. And they all knew each other and were just very lively. So that was a great ride. We were all high-fiving, and, it definitely increased my enjoyment of it. So again, if you are just not in that position to ride with people like that, or people that could also impact. It's definitely not a 5-star attraction because it will not be amazing every time you ride it, but it will be amazing some of the times you ride it. And even when it's not amazing, I still think it's a very good ride. I would say out of a ranking of 5 stars, I personally would put it at 4 stars, which I think is also where we have Star Tours. If somebody wanted to argue it down to 3.5 or up to 4.5, I would probably be okay. I don't think it's a 5-star ride. I don't think it's a 3-star ride. I think it is better than that. It has a lot of re-rideability. I believe there are even going to be alternate missions. I got, during the run last weekend, we got the same mission every time, but it was slightly different on a couple of the times. If you watch the ride-through video, the end part where you get the asteroids, you don't always get that. It kind of depends how long it takes you to do the rest of the stuff, and you don't always get 2 vials of coaxium. One of the times I did it, we only got 1 of them, so even that one ride can change. And because there are 3 different roles, and the 2 pilot roles are different too, so there's basically 4 different roles that you can do, which definitely increases the re-rideability, at least for me, trying to get them all. And that's another thing where it helps if you have a group of friends, because you can kind of trade off roles to try ones you haven't before. If you can, definitely ride several times. Single rider helps a lot with that. One tip: if you are riding single rider, it goes very quickly, but there are 2 single rider lines. So you all enter through the same single rider line, is right where the main entrance is on the left-hand side. But you go down a couple ramps. When you get to a staircase, there is one staircase that is kind of in front of you, a little to the right, and then kind of on the left, a little bit behind you, there is another staircase. Those both go to the separate lounges because there are 2 different lounge waiting areas and several cockpits on each one of those. So if you get to the single rider line and the line is down the steps, look to your left. There's probably nobody over there. There might be more now because we have been putting this out a lot, that there is a second one that way, but people don't seem to go that way. So if you're riding single rider, make sure you check that left-hand staircase too. And that's it. That's my experience on Millennium Falcon. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for watching. May the force be with you.